Alright everyone, welcome back to another new spanking hot what if video, and it's your boy K-Not Sasuke here, back at again with and today, well, I have two new ideas I'd just like to present to the table for all what ifers. Now, many people can copy what I'm doing today, or not. As this what if itself is completely original, or at least I think it is. As for the idea I'm talking about, I'm 1,000% sure it's original. Or at least in America. I do not know if the idea I'm going to talk about has been done or not, so please do not get angry at me in the comments. You see, there are things that, well, some people and me find creepy. I think of them as stories that could have been told, but were not. Now, what I'm talking about is bad ends, or the bad endings. So after this brief, today I will be going through one of a couple of alternate universes of some of people's favorite or worst childhood movies. And today, first on the table is Coraline. Now, if you guys want to watch that, you can. It's coming out later today, so yeah. I just before making this video, I posted a little sneak peek about it, so yeah. If y'all like that type of stuff, if you like bad NDAUs, then please do watch it, because I mean, I have seen the pictures. I've seen pictures of these bad NDAUs, but I've never actually seen like an entire laid out storyline. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, and not only for movies, but for childhood TV shows as well, such as the legendary Gravity Falls. Kubo. Kubo is absolutely my favorite movie of all time, and no one can change my mind. But anyways, without any further ado, let's get on to the what if. So, yeah. Today, we have what if Deku found a sealed book. Or a sealed tome, I guess you could say. Now, what sealed book am I talking about? This one. Now, it has number 4 on it. Just a bit of a lore for this, and just the backstory for this, just a tiny bit of backstory. He is, basically, we go to Gravity Falls of all places. As it has been 2 years since they've defeated Bill, things are pretty normal. Until one day the clouds becomes nighttime all of a sudden. As shadows are breaking loose. Tentacles of darkness, purple and black and dark blue lightning, purple and black flames everywhere, basically the whole dark villain gist going on here. As we see a woman walk out of a portal that has just opened, as she then says, "Finally, after so many years, I'm free from the nightmare realm." So, this is Earth. Well, I'll say it has changed a while since I've been here. As you might be wondering who this woman is, she is the first of many evils, the eternal darkness, the first goddess of destruction, death, fear, terror, darkness, nightmares, dreams, and all the other unholy evils. As this goddess is the one, the only Nyx. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Nyx is my favorite goddess. So, yeah. As Nyx would walk out of this rift, as they then say, "Who are you?" As she would then say, "I am the mother of all evils. I am Nyx. And this world is mine." As the shadows would begin stretching out of Gravity Fall and would begin stretching all over Gravity Falls. However, she would realize that she, for some reason, can't leave Gravity Falls, or her shadows are not leaving Gravity Falls, as she would then say, "What is this sorcery? What is this?" As Stanford Pines would then say, "A little something for you, Mrs. Mother of all evil, and Mother of all evils. Gravity Falls has a little something called natural weirdness magnetism." As she would then look at Stanford and say, "That's fucking stupid." As he'd say, "Meh. It keeps evil beings such as you. Well, it keeps evil beings inside, meaning they can't stretch outward. Meaning they can't they can't rule over everything unless," as he would say unless in his head, under his breath, as she would hear this and she would then say, "Unless what?" As he would then run away, as she would then say, "Unless what?" As she would then chase after Stanford Pines, as Stanford would get into his, and would basically go to his, to the old part of his home, also known as the Church of Cipher. As he would get to the old part of his home and open a book, and would basically grab what appeared to be a large amount of metal. Hold on, I'm eating. What the? As he would grab a large pile of glowing golden metals. And what appeared to be a book of sorts, as he would begin carefully crafting a fourth book. As he would put his hand down on the book, however, due to the darkness spreading all over Gravity Falls, it would begin changing his hand. It would begin changing him and all the other beings and all the other residents of Gravity Falls. As his right hand, which he uses to basically stamp the books, would grow claws. His entire arm would become some sort of, would basically become like that of a werewolf. As he would then say, "Ah, what the?" As he would then stamp his six-fingered hand on the book, as that's the reason why it has claws on it, as he would then begin and speaking in backwards spells. Backwards spells such as voodoo and other dark arts. As he would then say AXOLOT, and in backwards he would then say AXOL. I call upon the power of the almighty AXOLOTL, or the axolotl. As suddenly everything would stop, as Stanford would have been teleported to a sort of white and gold realm of clouds, as you would then see a giant white sort of salamander-like beast, as it would then telepathically speak and say, "What do you have called upon of me? What do you wish for?" As he would then say, "I wish for the power of this one book I wish for this one book to have the power to seal away any evil, including the mother of all monsters and darkness." As the axolotl would then telepathically say, "Granted." As Stanford would have been basically put back in his home, as he would then begin working on the book, filling it with pages of, he would fill it with blank pages, as he would then hold the book and would say, hey, Miss Mother of all Darkness, hey, Mother of all Ugly," and he'd say, "Mother of all Ugly, over here," as Stanley would have the book in his hands, waving it around, as she would sense a highly unnatural force of energy coming from the book, as she presumed that that book was the thing keeping her and her darkness in Gravity Falls, as she would rush over to it, and would then say, and as she rushed over, throw Stanley next to on a tree, and then grab the book. As she would then open the book, but suddenly it would then begin to glow, black and purple, as suddenly all of the darkness would then be sucked in the book, and she would then say, "What? No, no, no!" As she would have been sucked inside of the book itself, as Stanford would then say, and would then put the book inside of a chest, and then would ship it off to an unknown place. As he would then say, "There. That beast. There. Now that's over, and we can go back to our normal lives, or at least understand what has happened to us." As he'd look at his right arm, which was now basically hulking, furry, and clawed, as everyone else would have different sorts of changes, which these, of course, would grow around as these would, of course, be the first quirks, and, well, we skipped many years. As the boat carrying the chest would have been shipwrecked, and the chest itself would have been, through a long and boring series of events, the chest would have been carried off to Japan, and in a drain, as it would be in a old and abandoned mining facility in the middle of the forest, or a sort of rental water cleaning area, or is it basically an old sewage system? As we go to Deku, who is running, as Deku basically looks like Sora in this. Deku has a quirk called, and yes, in this Deku has a quirk, but it's a weak one. And it's considered a villain quirk, as basically Deku's quirk is very simple. He can open rifts of shadows and summon beings out. But these beings are basically random. Deku can, as eventually Deku will be able to control how many and what types of beings he summons out. But right now, it's sort of random and only small beings. As Deku's quirk would be called Summoner, and people would call it a villain quirk. As the first time Deku used it, he summoned a imp. If you don't know, a imp is like a tiny baby fire demon. Or like a tiny demon. As someone with an erasing quirk with a quirk to turn off quirks by basically touching them, and by saying the person's full name, and by saying the person's name with their eyes closed, would then and say Izuku, as suddenly the beast and the imp would have been desummoned. As well, until after that day, Deku would have been called a villain, as they thought his quirk could only summon in evil beasts and evil spirits of malice. As Deku's own mother would have been terrified, as one night Deku summoned a giant serpent. Basically, Deku summoned the Great Devourer once. If you don't know what the Great Devourer is, watch Season 1. Watch the Rise of the Snakes season. The one with Pythor, P. Chumsworth, Lego Ninjago. It's the season right after the pilot. Basically, watch that. As he would then say, as we see Deku basically running away. As we see basically civilians and other people chasing after Deku, saying, Get the villain! Turn off his quirk! Kill him before he can summon any more demons! Deku, of course, would be running away, as he would run over to an old, broken down building and would fall in a hole. They would think that Deku was dead, as, well, it was a 20-foot long drop. It was a 20-foot tall drop. As Deku would have basically landed in a small area of water. As he would then say, a old rusty chest, just 10 feet away. I'm just 5 feet away. As Deku would basically look over at this chest and would see that it had symbols of hands and eyes on it. As Deku would then and would see that there was a lock on it, but he had no key. As Deku would then, basically, Deku would hold out his hand as, and now this key, it is not like normal keys. Basically, he needs a hand with 6 fingers and 6 claws, each with a claw on it to open. As Deku basically is angry, as suddenly he opens a portal. As this portal opens and summons out a man in old broken clothing. Summons out what appears to be skeleton in old clothing. As he sees that this skeleton has 6 fingers, each with claws, as suddenly, where the skeleton's eye socket, suddenly the skeleton's eye sockets would begin to glow, as they would glow a blue color and a white color, as the skeleton would then rise up. As the skeleton would then say, "Wait, what the hell happened?" As just as he was about to say happened, or what is going on here, the skeleton would then have been run over with a surge of purple energy, and of a surge with red energy. As suddenly the skeleton's eyes would turn red, as Deku would then say, "Hey, you, open that chest." As Stanford, yes, this skeleton is Stanford, as Stanford would basically be under Deku's control. As when the red energy comes out, it's when Deku controls this thing he summoned. As Stanford, basically in his subconscious, would know that if I do this, he will probably open that book and the world will end. However, he can't do crap against Deku's control. As he walks over and touches the chest, as suddenly his entire body poofs up into basically he's sent through a rift back to the underworld. Basically, I'm back to heaven. Basically, the skeleton, as his soul goes to heaven, and his skeleton is back in its grave. As Deku would walk over to the now unlocked chest, as he would open it and see a old, dusty book with a claw mark at the back. As he would then pick up the book and open it. As he would see these 6 claws, just as that skeleton had. As he would then say, that's whoever that skeleton was, it must have wrote in this book and made that chest. But why? As suddenly a red energy would leak out of Deku's body and surround the book. As we go to inside the book. Sorry, do not pay attention to those are for another day. As inside the book, we see a woman who's basically just playing with her hair at this point, because she's bored as all hell. As she then sees this red energy enter the book. As she's confused as all hell, as she then suddenly, right where the palm of the book, of the hand on the cover of the book is, a eye would open up. As this eye is white and purple, of course, this being Nyx's eye. she wanted to see what Deku looked like, or who or what was doing this, as she would see a boy with brown hair and, well, brown eyes. Basically, he in torn clothing, holding the book, as suddenly the book would open, as suddenly a red, black, and purple portal would appear right above the open book, as she would then swirl, and as darkness would then swirl out of the book, as Nyx would appear. As Nyx would then say, so, you are the one who has awoken me, mortal? As Deku, of course, is not using her power, so she cannot sense it. As she would then say, what power did you use to awaken me? And to open that very book? Or to summon? Or to at least have your hand look like that one who tricked me and trapped me in here. As he would then say, huh? Oh, that's just my quirk. As she would be confused and would say, dear child, please tell me, what on earth is a quirk? As he would then say, a quirk is something that 80% of the world has. It's like a special ability, and it's like a superpower. As she would then think, so when my darkness changed these, have begun to change the citizens of Gravity Falls, and of that place, it must have affected their bloodline as well, thus giving the higher percent of the human race abilities. As she would then say, well, can you tell me what your quirk is? As he would then say, sure. My quirk is called summoning. It's called Summoner. I can summon beings out of, well, I don't exactly know, but I can summon things. However, every time I do, it's something that mostly it's bad things, as Deku would then open his palm, and would then close his eyes and open them again, as they begin glowing, as his entire body would begin glowing with a red aura around it, as Deku would then open his palms, as a red and black rift would open right in front of them, as suddenly a giant skeleton with 3 horns and only one eye hole would appear, as the eye hole would begin glowing white, as the skeleton would then raise a battle axe it was holding, as suddenly the skeleton and its eye would begin glowing red, as Deku would begin controlling the skeleton. Nyx, of course, would be watching this, as she would then say, amazing. It appears you have the power to wield over all evils, or over all darkness, or at least the monsters. As she would then say, well then, boy, allow me to explain who I am. I am the almighty mother of all evil, or darkness, or monsters, whatever you prefer. As she would say, I am the almighty goddess, Nyx. As Deku would then say, wait, you're the Greek goddess? Nyx, as in the primordial one, who I'm pretty sure is a sister of Gaia, and of Gaia, the earth, Uranus, the sky, Pontus, the sea, Eros, love, and the others, and I think there's some others. Also Tartarus, as she would then say. Yes. You seem to know much. You seem to know so much for a mortal. And she would then say, Child, tell me your name. As he would then say, my name? My name is Izuku Midoriya. As suddenly Nyx's eyes would begin, and would then close and glow, as a red aura would begin swirling around her eyes, as she would have seen a vision. As she would see only a glimpse, but the glimpse would have been of a war, or what appeared to be a battle, as she would see a blurry, as she would see what appeared to her as a blur, moving so fast that no one could calculate it. But it looked like a giant blur of purple and black shadows. The only thing she could make out were the yellow eyes. As she would then say, as she basically would be snapped back into reality, as she would then say, Well then, Izuku Midoriya, I must thank you for freeing me. As she would then say, I know. As she would rush over, as she would basically float over to Deku and kiss him on the lips. As she would then think, this taste, it's not normal for a mortal. Not even a I'm not even a human or god. It's refined, delicious. I should then say, I must have more. And I should think, I must have more. As she would then look at Deku and see, his hair, just a small tip of his hair would turn black. As she would then say, Well then, boy. Well then, Izuku Midoriya, where is your temple? Where is your sleeping quarters? Your cabin, temple, palace? Clearly a being with clearly a mortal with your great of power should be worshipped as a god. And should be worshipped as a god. Heck, even considered a god. As he'd then say, thanks, but I guess you could say I'm an orphan. I was abandoned by my mother and father, and I'm pretty much the most hated person in Japan. I'm the most hated person of Musatafu, Japan. As she would then Hey, wait, you're hated? That isn't right. You should be worshipped, not hated. Hold on. Sorry about that. As Nyx would say, you are hated? How is that even possible? With a skill such as yours, or else you could probably be one of the strongest beings on this world. Even with some training, you could even be stronger than the likes of Hercules. As Deku would then blush as he'd then say, "Oh shucks, thank you." As he'd then just give a tiny little smile, as she would blush just a tiny bit, as her cheeks would become just 1% a bit darker. As yes, she basically blushes the opposite way. The more she blushes, the darker she gets. As Nyx would then say, so, how exactly is that even possible? I mean, seriously, how are you hated? You could rule over all of these fools with the proper training. As Deku would then explain how heroes and villains worked. As she would then say, villains? Heroes? What a hilarious notion. Back in my day, heroes were beings who were half gods. Beings who went on epic quests and adventures to stop up evil gods and evil demigods and monsters. But mortals fighting against mortals, but mortals with powers fighting against other mortals with powers? Weak. As she would then say, I'll tell you what, boy. I'll tell you what, Izuku Midoriya. I will train you. As he would then say, wait, really? As she would say, of course. After all, there is nothing more in this world that I would appreciate more than helping you out. After all, I see it as cruel and unjust. After all, what I said earlier was no lie. You could even surpass Hercules with your power. Hell, maybe even Zeus himself with the right training. As Deku would then say, thank you. I really mean it. As he would then say, yeah. As she would then say, thank you. You're welcome, Izuku. Now, where exactly do you live then, if you don't live in a giant temple or palace like you should? As Deku would then say, follow me. As the two would get out of the small sewage area, and out of the small drainage area, and they would walk 10 miles into another part of the forest. As Deku would bring her to a old and broken down wooden hut, and he would say, welcome home, I guess. Welcome to my home, I guess. As Nyx would then be infuriated and furious, as she would then say, hey, in a loud and angry voice, this is where you live? This is absolutely disgusting. Terrible. I should then say, you are not living here. You are not living here. Absolutely no way in hell you're living here. As she would then raise her hands and would open a portal, as the two would have been brought to a old Greek temple. I should say this temple is very famous. However, it has been long forgotten. I should then say, back in my day, this temple was so great that it could make Athena, who created the Parthenon and the Parthenon, blush. I should then say, welcome to the Night Spire, as Deku would then see a temple that was about the size of, well, I'm not gonna brag or anything, but it's the size of Texas, as in the whole darn state of Texas. As she would say, it's very big, I know, but, well, the reason why it's forgotten and never mentioned is because when I was sealed away, I kind of brought it with me. As she would then say, the Night Spire was my original base of commands, I guess you could say. My home, my battlefield, my place of comfort. As she would then say, here I train. And here I train, study, and live. I sent it to a dark place called the Shadow Realm when I was sealed away. But when I was first sent to a place called the Dark Dimension, called the Nightmare Realm by a god named Zeus. I should then say, but enough foolish talk. I should say, now, how we begin your training. As she would then say, now, close your eyes and breathe in. Then, harness all of your energy that you can and expel it. As Deku would then try, as he would spawn in one giant skeleton. And the same giant skeleton from earlier. As she would then say, now try to spawn multiple. As Deku would try, but he could not. As she would then say, tisk, tisk, tisk. It looks to me like it just needs some motivation. As she would then float over to Deku and would kiss him on the lips. As, well, suddenly half of Deku's entire head of hair would turn black. And would turn to this dark black color. As you see right here. As Deku would then blush and would try again. As he would then see as Deku would then summon in 2 more skeletons. I should then say, there you go. See, you're already getting the hang of it. As she would then say, now good night, Aidezuku. After all, it's very late. It's getting close to daytime. I shouldn't say now. Good day, Izuku, and I'll see you tonight. As she would then basically summon and teleport Deku to a master bedroom, and she would then say, On second thought, you're going to be sleeping with me. On second thought, you're going to be sleeping in my room with me. As she would then grab Deku and would basically lay down on her bed, as she would grab Deku and would begin cuddling with him. As that's where I'm ending this part off. Hope y'all have enjoyed part 1 of What If Deku Found a Sealed Book. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and if I have them, smash that notification bell. Please tell me what you think of this series, if there's anything I should do to change it or update it, and yeah. So I'll see y'all next time. Have a good day, night, and skadoosh.